Welcome to this overview of LMN, made specifically for snow and ice contractors. In this overview, you're going to get a chance to see how LMN helps snow and ice contractors build better, more profitable businesses, and how it helps them run their operations in a far more easier fashion. Because let's face it, the snow and ice industry is not an easy industry. You don't even know how much work you're going to have to do or when you're going to have to do it. You're going to be working nights, holidays, and in the worst of conditions. Your billing and your service reputation relies at the mercy of thousands of pieces of paper scribbled in the middle of the night by employees and subcontractors who, let's face it, probably don't care enough about the accuracy of that paper. And just when you're about to get through it all, you get another event and you get to do it all over again. Despite all this, you're more likely to get sued than you are to get a thank you card. So it makes for a really challenging workplace. But with those challenges comes opportunities. There's a genuine opportunity to run really good, really profitable businesses for companies that know how to run them efficiently. And that's where we come in. If you can estimate profitably, hit all your sales goals, provide great customer service, and do that all with minimal overhead staff and management, your company's going to own a significant competitive advantage over the rest of the industry. LMN actually was born out of a snow and ice company itself. In fact, one of the industry's top 100. We got to work building our own software to help us provide more efficient, more profitable, and more aware service for our customers. And in this video, we're going to take you through what we built and what eventually became the LMN software. And we're going to start it right from the first phone call, because the whole process starts with your leads. Managing leads is key to making sure that we're running a profitable business. We've got to understand our sales opportunities, make sure we're doing the things we need to do to close them, and also understand where we're winning and why we're winning and losing jobs. LMN is going to help make sure you've got a better handle on your leads. With its CRM software, you're going to be able to track your prospects, share client and job information with everybody in your company who needs to know that information, keep track of tasks and to-do items, when they're due and who's doing them, and also identify the best sources of business, either by the most amount of leads or the highest closing rates on your estimates. We're going to take a look at how we're going to do all that with a live demonstration. LMN comes with CRM functionality. CRM just stands for Customer Relationship Management, but it can apply to customers, leads, even vendors. Here's a look at the CRM basic screen. I'm going to open up a lead for you to give you an example of what it looks like. Here, for example, we've got a company called Acme Properties, and you can track some basic address information, view some information about your estimates you've done for them, but you can also assign them as a lead or a client. You can assign them to a specific person in your organization, and you can tell the system where it came from, either from your website, networking, customer referral, and you can set up your own list of referrals over here in the referral sources. You can also apply tags to this lead. So for example, if I wanted to identify this lead as a snow prospect, I could add that tag there. And then anytime I want to pull a list of my snow prospects, I can simply pull lists of leads by tags. A lead can have any number of contacts, so I can have one or more people assigned to a lead. I can do the same for job sites, for those clients and leads that have multiple job sites in different areas. Here in the lead tracking, I'll also have access to all the estimates I've ever done for this lead. So over here, I can see the value, but more importantly, I can just click the estimate and open it from there. What's really handy is the communication history. So here, our office staff can document phone calls, notes, emails, etc. Anything that's come in from the client that'd be a good idea to share with the other people in our organization. Keeps everybody in the office in the loop as to what's happening with that client. You can automatically add things to the communication history right out of your email by simply BCCing crm@golmn.com when you email a client. It'll automatically insert whatever email you sent to them here in the LMN software as well. To-dos are also an important part of lead tracking. You can create to-dos either for yourself or for other people. To-dos can be assigned a due date and a priority level and a progress status, either pending, in progress, or complete. So you can keep tabs on what things you have to do for leads, estimates, or even servicing a client's contract. There's quick and handy views on the to-do screen to see all the to-dos that have been assigned to me and whether they're overdue or complete. I can even set up notifications for myself so that every time a to-do gets added for me in LMN, I'll automatically get an email to myself letting me know that to-do has either been assigned or maybe that the progress status has been changed. You can choose which notifications you want for yourself. Finally, an important part of CRM is managing your data. So you can definitely run reports on sales by division, closing rates by estimator, sales and closing rates by salesperson, or even sales and closing rates by those tags that you created. So you can take a look at where your leads are coming from, what sources are most effective, where you're closing your most revenue and your least revenue, and who is closing your most and least revenue. Hopefully, your leads are culminating into estimates. And that's where LMN picks up next. But what LMN does is try to address one of the biggest problems in our industry, and that's guesstimates. Most small businesses suffer from the fact that instead of estimating, they're guesstimating. Nobody really knows how much overhead to apply or how much the equipment cost or whether it's the right price on the bid. Lots of companies are comfortable with their pricing today, but it's because they just know they're winning work at that price. They're not necessarily certain that it's the right price. And maybe you could be getting more work if you knew you could be cheaper, or maybe you have to be more expensive to cover your costs. No matter what your estimating or guesstimating issue is, LMN, hands down, is going to help you take the guesswork out of estimating and make sure that your company gets the right price on every bid you produce. And here's how we're going to do it. Before you estimate, LMN actually starts from a budget. Now, a budget's built to make sure that we get the right price on every estimate. So you're going to sit down and plug in some of your financials, and then LMN's going to help tell you what things cost, what their break-even needs to be, and what the price we need to charge to make the profit we want to make is. Now, everybody in your company, of course, doesn't have to see the budget. There's sensitive financial information in here. But your estimators are going to use the budget, whether they can see it or not, to help produce profitable estimating and pricing. When you sit down to make your budget, and you can make one for your entire company, or you can break it down right for your snow, you're going to set up sales goals. You're going to set up the crews that work either in your company or, in this case, for my snow division, how many I have and what their hours are and what their wages are so that I get a wage budget for that. Your equipment budget's going to include enough to recover your fuel, your repair, your insurance, but it also includes calculators to help you determine what your equipment actually costs. You're going to enter things like your replacement value, your year's life, and what its value is at the end of its life, plus some inflation or interest. And then LMN will help tell you what you need to recover per year and eventually per hour in order to make sure that we're recovering all the costs of our equipment. You're going to build a budget for your snow materials like salt, your subcontractors, and then, very importantly, your overhead. Your overhead budget's going to include all your non-estimated costs like rent, insurance, and cell phones and GPS fees, and also wages for people that don't work in the field, like accountants and bookkeepers and office managers, so that you can look at how much overhead either your company needs to recover, or if you're building a division budget, what your overhead expenses are for the division specific like snow. This way, when we're bidding work, we'll know exactly how much overhead we need to recover on each bid. It'll be built into the prices that we charge for the labor, equipment, and materials that we bid. Finally, your budget's going to produce a profit and loss statement to show you how much money that you should make if all these things come true. An overhead recovery system to make sure that you've got enough overhead recovery built into your pricing based on your specific overhead. And then an analysis screen that'll benchmark your company's numbers against peers in the industry that do similar types of work. We'll take a look at whether your labor is higher or lower than the average. Now, once you're done your budget, the budget feeds the item catalog. You're going to set up your crews and your equipment and your materials here so that each one has a cost. In this case, it's a crew, so it's a wage. An unbillable factor, that's time that we're paying the crew that they're not actually generating billable work. Labor burden, like taxes and workers' comp. Then LMN's going to add your overhead and profit to come up with the rate you need to charge an hour to recover all the costs of that crew. And we're going to do the same thing with your equipment as well, taking the complexity out of pricing equipment. Here, calculators will help you calculate based on your hours of use, your purchase price, your resale value, your fuel, your insurance, how much you need to charge an hour for your equipment in your bids to make sure you're recovering all the costs and making a fair net profit. You'll see in just a minute how that information translates into an estimate. But before we go there, we can also build things like production rates. And here's where we're really taking advantage of the power of the system. Production rates can help you take the people in your company who've got the experience and the expertise to estimate and build it into a turnkey system for other people. Here, for example, I've got production rates for snow plowing. We can identify the different types of equipment we have and how many acres or square feet they can clear in an hour. And we can do the same thing for salting. These calculations are then going to be used when we're estimating to help newer or less experienced estimators estimate sites with a very similar precision that an experienced estimator would. These production rates couldn't possibly cover every variable on each site, but they can give any estimator a leg up when starting a bid for any job site. Now, there's lots of ways to bid a job. There's pen and paper, there's Excel spreadsheets, there's other software. But what LMN's built to do is to take all that little bit of information that experts have floating around in their head somewhere and translate it into a system that anybody can use to estimate jobs profitably. That's why we start with a budget, so that all estimators are going to be used the right costs, the right overhead, and the right profit margins. And that's why we've also set up things like production rates, so that all the estimators can benefit from experience from our internal experts to let them know how long things should take. All that leads to a system that will allow you to create fast, consistent, profitable estimates. And since LMN is in the cloud, you can generate these from anywhere. You can literally drive up, pull into a client's lot, measure it from your cab of your truck, bang out an estimate, and email it there, all without ever even leaving the client's property. Let's take a look at how it's done. When you're estimating, the first thing you're going to do is pick a lead. That way we're going to track this estimate's revenue and sales closing percentages back to this lead so we can run reports on that. Next thing you might want to do, though, is to measure the site. Like we said earlier, you can do that from anywhere, from your desk or even from the dash of your truck. Simply click the Measure Site button and then draw an area around the area you're supposed to service at this client's property. When you're done drawing the area, LMN's going to give you a rough estimate down here, in this case 1.7 acres, of the area that you need to plow. You can zoom in and get as detailed as you need for each different site. Once I've got that, I've got the information I need for estimating. Imagine that your estimators now can just go to Services and Pricing and build an estimate for the job. Here I've created something for lot plowing on a 2 to 4 inch event. In order to do this, I'm going to need a truck and a driver. So I simply go to Add Items, and it pulls up the things we looked at in the labor calculator earlier. So we're going to grab a snowplow driver, and we're going to grab a snowplow truck. Next, your estimator is going to figure out how long that takes. And if you've set up your production rates, you can do that easily. I'll click the calculator. I'm going to scroll down here and pick that it's a normal lot for snow plowing. And then here I just simply enter the acres that we've got to plow. It'll do the calculation, and in this case it says 2.13 hours. We can round it up if we want, and then hit Update Estimate. Once those numbers are in there, time for the plow truck driver and the plow, LMN's showing you your unit price for each, your break even, and your price per visit. So in this case, we need to charge $210 per plow to make a 20% profit. All your estimate totals are listed up here across the top as well. Now these are my per visit prices. If I wanted to do a per season estimate, I could do it just as easily. I simply click this and enter the number of times I think we're going to have to do a plow. Once I change this to per season, I'm now going to have a per season total on my estimate and a number of payments and how much per payment. So you can build estimates either per visit, per season, or by the hour. You can also analyze your estimate in more detail. And this shows you the price, the cost of goods sold, the actual cost of doing the work, your gross profit, your overhead, your break even, where your money's getting spent, what your gross profit is versus your budget, what your net profit is versus your budget, and what your revenue per hour is on this job. That's how much total sales each employee is generating per hour that they work. Even better, you can save your estimates as templates so that each time I make a new estimate, I could literally start it for one that's 90% complete, including client notes for snow contracts. Using the print button, we can choose the style of proposal we want to print for the customer, whether it's per season or per visit or some combination of both. And from here, we'll get a PDF that we can either email or print from the client right here from the system. And finally, before we close out estimating, there's a little thing here called estimate status. And here's where you can set up your sales pipeline statuses. Using these statuses, LMN is going to show you how much work you have pending, how much is sold, how much is lost, and it can show you that information by salesperson, by estimator, by referral source, and any tag that you've set up in the system by yourself. And for those of you who use QuickBooks, there's a little button down here that'll mark this for an export to QuickBooks. We'll push this right over to QuickBooks and automatically set up a customer and a job for you so that you're ready to invoice the client. Getting a fast, consistent, profitable price on an estimate is an awesome step forward for a lot of companies, but it only solves half the problem. Too many companies in our industry have too much supervision, mistakes, risk, and processing time because they're largely dependent on the paperwork from their crews. And let's be honest, that paperwork is sketchy at best. Most companies are often spending way too much time calling drivers to figure out where people are at and who can get moved to different spots and who's done what if a customer's calling. They're waiting for logs to come in at the end of the shift to pay people properly and to bill clients. Then once they get the log, they're spending hours sorting through them, fixing mistakes, AM and PM, where they were at, when they left, what day the log was for. And then they've got to take that log information and often enter it into 3 different systems, one for payroll, one for billing, and another for job costing or service tracking. There's all kinds of inefficiency and way too much room for mistakes. We knew in running our own company that our office was one of our biggest areas of inefficiency and was causing our overhead to be too high. But if we could move our company paperless, we'd be able to solve 80% of that inefficiency through a streamlined process where the office sets up the job the way they want it tracked and billed, the crew simply follows the process, and then the office can see live exactly what's happening in the field for instant operations analysis, but also for instant billing and customer management. Let's take a look for a minute on how that works in terms of getting a job set up for the crews. LMN Time, our mobile time tracking application, isn't just for payroll. And one of the primary advantages it has over a lot of other payroll applications is that it can allow you to manage your operations and billing using your payroll data. The nice thing is it kind of works like this. If the guys want to get paid, they have to clock into the system. But by clocking into the system, they're giving you the information you need, not only to pay them well, but to manage your hours on site and to bill each site correctly. Let's take a look at how that works here. Here's an example of a typical job. Now you can import an estimate right into Time so that all the information you plugged in when the estimate comes straight over here. We can also add things like a link to a site map so that the crews are just one click away from in the field getting a live map to their phones to show them exactly what areas they have to service. This is really handy and it's helped us eliminate our snow binders that we used to use in our operations. Next thing you want to set up is your tasks. And tasks help you figure out how you want to track time against this job. For this particular job, we're breaking the time down by plowing, walkways, salting, and removals, so that when we estimate the job next year, we can see exactly how much time we spent on each one of these functions. Now, removals and relocates are billed hourly because we charge our clients by the hour for this work. So you can set up hourly rates in here as well for your different pieces of equipment, but it'll also generate billing information for those very same services. Now, while the guys are clocking in and clocking out, we know that they were plowing or doing walkways or doing salting, but very often you need to know a little bit more information, like how much salt did you use, or did you do a full plow or a partial plow? This information is critical for billing and customer reporting. So under the activities section, we can set up questions for our crews that ask them things like, did you complete an inspection? Did you do a full or partial plow? Did you do a salting application? Or how many bags did you put down? Optionally, you can attach pricing to these things, which of course your crews wouldn't see, but it'll also generate that information for billing. This way, when our crew clocks out of our site, they'll be prompted with this list of questions. And as they tick off what they did, that information is being fed back instantly to the office so that you know what's happening out in the field in real time, but your billing is also ready the minute the crews are done their shift. In running your operations, you're probably going to want to keep an eye on the estimated hours and how much time you've used up for each job. Very quickly, we can grab a job and go to a review button and it'll go through every single timesheet that's ever been booked against this job. I can click them to open and review them, but it'll also show me the progress, how many hours I estimated for that job, and how many hours I've actually estimated to the date. And the nice thing about this report is it's up to the minute every minute. It's live. As you're looking at it, that's the exact amount of time you've spent on that site. Another handy feature is the history viewing tool, where you can very quickly grab a site and then pull up its history. Here's all the times we went and plowed this site. And just by clicking on a date and time, we can see what date it was, what we did, who did it, what the comments were when they were there, and the weather, as well as any activities we performed. No more when a client calls in are we saying, we don't know, we're going to have to call you back because I've got to call a driver to figure out whether they were there or not. All the information as it happens is live at my operations manager's fingertips. So as the calls come in, we can tell clients immediately how things are going on their site, what happened when we were there, and if there were problems, we'll know about them without ever even having to bother the drivers. That keeps them busy plowing, which is what we're getting paid to do. We can also make it easier for our crews by grouping our sites into routes. By simply adding a bunch of jobs to a specific route, I can save the route and then optimize it. By optimizing this route, LMN will go through and find the most efficient driving directions to get from point A, likely your shop or parking area, through their route all the way back to the shop again. This route can be generated and then issued to crews so that crews can find their way through. But it doesn't mean they have to stick with the route. We all know what happens in snow and ice. Equipment breaks down, some people get ahead of others. Crews are easily available to slip off the route and join in to help somebody else's route at a moment's notice. Crews can even check in the status of other foremen's progress if you want to give them that ability. It allows my foreman or salter driver to check in on other crews' progress so that they know what sites they need to help or what sites they may need to wait on in the case of a salt truck. Once you've set your jobs up in the office, you're ready to turn it over to your crews in the field. For them, there's a simple app that gets installed on phones and it works on both Apple and Android devices. That app is easy to use and really hard to mess up if you just follow the simple steps. Crews start by picking the job that they're at, and then they pick who's with them if it's more than one person. After that, they pick the task they're working on, but of course they can only pick from the task that you've set up for them. You can prompt the crew with specific instructions for that site to make sure it gets done right the first time, and then the phone picks the date and the time. Very simple. In just 10 seconds or less, your crews are clocking in and clocking out to jobs. And for all those who worry, I'm not sure my crews will get it. There's over 650,000 timesheets and 10 million man hours already logged in the system. First weeks are always difficult, but after that, it's a simple process that people do day in and day out. If you can learn to write your log on paper, you're going to find this even easier. Once your crews start using the app, managing them becomes simple. In fact, you can manage your operations live as the event happens because all the information is getting synced to the cloud as it happens. It gives your managers live, real-time data to make better decisions on the fly as the event happens and as problems arise and come up. Let's take a look at some examples. Let's say I wanted to check on the status of a particular driver. Simply go up here to Crew Progress and then pick the driver you want to track. Pick the date, hit Show Progress, and we'll get a live view of where that driver started and then where they got to next, including in and out times for every single site. Every time a crew member clocks in or out of a site, LMN's taken a GPS stamp of the crew's actual location. So if a crew says they were somewhere, we can certainly verify when they were somewhere. In fact, there's reports that'll actually look at just variances between the distance away a crew was from a job site from where they said they were. We can also flip this information around though and look at a job specific level. So let's say I wanted to take a look at job history. If a client calls in and wants to know anything about their site, we simply go to the job and the task they worked on, and every date, time, and event information that we need to know is live at our fingertips. When it comes to approving timesheets, we get the same benefits. As employees submit their timesheets for approval, they're analyzed quickly by LMN. If there's any difference between their actual clock-in time and the time they said it was, we're going to get a red pencil here. And by clicking here, I can audit that. On this particular timesheet, we can see that the crew said it was 7 a.m. when they clocked in, but it was actually 8:47 a.m. when they filled out their timesheet. If I click the Maps button here, I'll get a map of where they were actually when they clocked in, clocked out, and edited the time. So we're going to hold our crews to a whole new level of accountability, but it'll make our whole company better and definitely improve the accuracy of the data that they're tracking. As well, it eliminates the need for costly GPS contracts, as you're getting a GPS stamp every single time the crews clock in and clock out of a site. What that means for our company is not just cool new paperless technology. It means we're making better, more efficient, more profitable decisions. Managers are using live, historical data, and it's always at your fingertips no matter where you are. As long as you have an internet connection, you can see your operations unfold in real time, even if you're in your bed or at your vacation spot in Florida. By having your operations paperless, you're going to enjoy a major advantage in efficiency and productivity over the majority of your competitors. The time spent manually processing and guessing as to what's happening during an event is enough to make most owners sick, but all that disappears when you go to paperless. But we don't have to just limit it to our own efficiency and productivity. We can extend those advantages to even our customers and our sales process. One of the ways you can do this is through an app called Job Site Watch. It links directly to LMN Time, but it's for your customers. You specify which customers can view which job sites, and they can get live real-time status updates of their sites as your services happen. You can customize which customers can see which information, but typically most contractors will show a date, a time, a task name, and a description of what we did when we were there. By offering this to our customers in the sales process, we're significantly differentiating our company from the rest of our competition, offering them a whole new level of professionalism and transparency, one that's going to be unmatched by unprofessional or less professional competitors. You can print job history reports or payroll export reports in seconds just by clicking your mouse a few times. Or you can choose to automatically export your payroll to accounting. LMN Time exports directly to QuickBooks, timesheets, customers, jobs, and estimates. Instantaneously export to QuickBooks with no data entry at all. As an extra advantage, LMN also comes equipped with over 700 policies, procedures, checklists, and templates in its systems library. We grew our own landscape company from a backyard startup to one of the industry's largest 100 companies. And through that process, the need for systems and procedures and predictable ways of doing things became not just apparent, but necessary to grow. Now all that information's yours. In the format of Word documents, you'll be able to download the templates we built to help our landscape company grow, customize them to suit your own information, and issue them just like they were yours. 10 years worth of work building these things are yours at the click of a mouse. All this for just $199 a month. LMN was designed to be affordable for any contractor, small or large. There's no upfront contracts, and service and support are free with your membership. Crews can be added and subtracted each month, so if you need more crews in the winter than in the summer, your bill will adjust itself accordingly. You only pay for your crews when you need them. For more information on LMN, check out www.golmn.com/snow. There you'll see a complete bit of information about our software, but also about our workshops. Every summer, in partnership with Cyma and Caterpillar Equipment, we offer business management workshops where you'll learn how to build a budget, create an estimating system, and track your time in a 2-day hands-on interactive workshop like none other in the industry. Join the over 4,000 contractors that have already attended and start reaping the benefits of these new processes immediately. Thank you for investing your time in watching this. And if you have any questions for us, don't hesitate to reach out at support@golmn.com.